Dating a coworker is an experience where you have to act like enemies at work to avoid detection by your boss and other colleagues, but at home, you blend perfectly, making every day a mixture of extremes. This morning, the women at the office were gossiping about a suspected secret romance between a man from the sales department and a woman from HR. Despite their usual lack of interaction, several small clues made their relationship seem suspicious. Senior colleague Shizuno asked Tateshi for his opinion on workplace romances. Initially indifferent, Tateshi felt discouraged by the enthusiastic gossip. Meanwhile, another colleague, Maria, couldn't understand why the couple would bother hiding their relationship. Right after her comment, a gossiping colleague mentioned that for the couple in love, this secrecy acts not as a barrier, but as fuel. Hearing this made Tateshi break into a sweat. Suddenly, colleague Yui called out to him, then quickly confronted him for not accepting her invoice, leading to a small argument. Shizuno reminded them that since they started at the company together, they should get along better. Little did anyone know, Tateshi and Yui shared the same bed at night. That evening, Yui apologized to Tateshi for shouting at him during the day, explaining her uncertainty about how to act around him since their relationship was new. Tateshi, understanding her perspective, bore with the situation. Over 6 years, Tateshi and Yui appeared as adversaries at work, yet they harbored special feelings for each other. After careful probing and discreet maneuvering, they officially became a couple, albeit secretly. Yui insisted on treating Tateshi poorly in public to keep their relationship under wraps, even avoiding eye contact in the hallway and meeting 3 stations away from work. Their days off were spent only at home, not daring to date outside. Tateshi felt overwhelmed by these demands, questioning whether this could even be called a relationship. However, he found Yui incredibly charming, which made it difficult to stay away at work. Yui then suggested using masks to go out, which Tateshi found endearing. They decided to keep their relationship private to avoid gossip and potential negative impacts on their careers, as neither wanted to be viewed differently at work. One busy day at the company, where Tateshi worked in finance and Yui in planning on different floors, they struggled to find time to meet. Yui seized an opportunity to deliver documents to finance, but her frequent visits made colleagues uncomfortable, leading to a decision by rock, paper, scissors. Disappointed, Yui messaged Tateshi and went home. The next morning, rushing to deliver files, Tateshi felt drained until he saw Yui in the elevator, instantly lifting his spirits. Unfortunately, the elevator was too crowded to talk, but Shizuno started a conversation with Yui about her recent successful project for their department head. Shizuno praised Yui and subtly prompted Tateshi to join in, aiming to strengthen their rapport. As Tateshi began to speak, Yui sarcastically responded, but this allowed them to start a conversation. Tateshi noticed Yui's ears turning red and thought to himself that such obvious signs could expose them. However, Shizuno didn't suspect anything and felt reassured seeing their apparent good relationship. Shizuno then assumed a senior role, advising them to maintain harmony and friendship. During this, Tateshi and Yui avoided eye contact, but as the elevator became crowded, they ended up at the back, seizing the chance to speak, and even secretly held hands. A few days later, after a busy period, Tateshi and Yui planned a date far from the office at a distant cinema. Having dated for nearly a month, they still addressed each other by their surnames. Yui felt it was time to use first names, and they agreed to do so on their date. Upon meeting, Tateshi was instantly charmed by Yui's new hairstyle and complimented it, calling her by her first name, which made her shy. When Tateshi asked which movie she wanted to see, Yui also called him by his first name, turning the situation flirtatious. They chose a horror movie, and during a scary moment, Yui instinctively grabbed Tateshi's hand, who comforted her in return. After the movie, they discussed where to eat, but unexpectedly ran into a former senior, Seiya, who was a trainer for new recruits, and Yui's university senior, making them close. Yui invited Seiya to join them for dinner, not planning to reveal her relationship with Tateshi. While Yui and Seiya chatted happily, Tateshi felt jealous, remembering rumors of their past club membership in college. Seiya inquired about Tateshi's work, and Tateshi responded briefly, asking why Seiya was there. Seiya explained he was on a business trip from a branch office and had missed a movie showing. Tateshi and Yui were relieved and subtly hid their recent movie outing. Tateshi felt there was no need to hide this from Seiya, who was rarely around. As Seiya and Yui resumed their conversation, Tateshi almost revealed his relationship with Yui out of jealousy, but Yui firmly stopped him. After the meal and parting with Seiya, Tateshi finally addressed the ease with which Yui called Seiya, but hesitated with his own name. Though not genuinely upset, as Yui's anxious explanation was too endearing, Tateshi kissed her, though he felt it inappropriate in public. They hurried home and were intimate, with Tateshi encouraging Yui to call him by his name, leaving her blushing the next morning. They headed to the train station together, and although Tateshi wanted to take the same train, Yui insisted on the next one. Ironically, Tateshi ended up meeting a colleague, Maria, who recently moved nearby. Luckily, Yui wasn't with him, keeping their secret safe for another day. Today, Tateshi and Yui unexpectedly bumped into each other outside the train station. They had a rule to go to work separately in the morning, so what were they to do? Ignoring each other seemed too awkward, and both felt lucky about the chance meeting. Finally, they decided to walk to the office together, playfully teasing each other along the way. To make up for the morning's awkwardness, they arranged a date at a pub in the evening. Yui has recently been busy planning a new product design. It's the first dessert she has designed, and she hit a roadblock, unable to decide between two proposals. A colleague suggested she seek help from someone in the finance department. Mentioning that word about her dilemma had already spread. Yui instantly broke into a sweat, thinking her relationship with Tateshi had been discovered. Thankfully, the colleague meant a different person from finance. Yui took the proposals upstairs and happened upon Tateshi helping to move items. She didn't greet her boyfriend but found Maria and asked her to taste test 2 snacks. Maria's advice turned out to be very professional and reliable, as she is a highly popular dessert critic. Hearing this, Maria also began to sweat and pleaded with Yui not to spread the word, although it wasn't against company policy. It would be too embarrassing as her serious and boring female colleague persona on social platforms was quite different, where she fully embraced her youthful spirit. Yui sympathized and promised to keep it a secret, reminding her colleagues in planning as well. Maria realized that Yui was actually quite nice, seeing she was only harsh with Tateshi. It was understandable, and the two of them casually started discussing their views on Tateshi. Although not on the same page, Maria mentioned that Tateshi often stared at his phone smiling during lunch. Yui was about to agree when she realized it was because he was responding to her messages. Despite Tateshi's flaws, Maria thought well of him as he always prioritized helping others, a sentiment deeply felt by Yui, who had fallen for him because of this trait. As they chatted, Maria complained about Tateshi's overeagerness, which made her and team leader Shizuno increasingly reliant on him. Yui, getting worked up, rattled off her complaints about Tateshi, which puzzled Maria, who quickly clarified she wasn't that interested in Tateshi. Yui snapped back to reality, relieved that her junior was a bit clueless and hadn't caught on. That evening, Yui went to Tateshi's house, gave him a massage after his bath, and talked about consulting Maria about the new product. However, she didn't mention Maria being a secret dessert critic. Tateshi wondered why his wife was so considerate today. Yui said it was because she saw him doing physical work and had wanted to give him a massage right away, but waited until now. Of course, it would soon be Tateshi's turn to massage her. Little did Tateshi know, it wasn't just going to be a simple massage session for him. Later, Yui improved the sample based on Maria's advice and distributed it among colleagues for feedback. Somei, a new colleague in planning who was somewhat inarticulate, seemed to be facing some issues. After handing him the snack, Yui helped him with his work. Meanwhile, Tateshi was being reprimanded by his boss for including too many items in a document. He explained that he had listed unpaid accounts for easy reference but was criticized for being careless. Frustrated, he returned to his desk, comforted by his colleagues but still felt uneasy. He went to buy a box of drinks and coincidentally met 2 colleagues, just as Yui was distributing snacks. Yui noticed Tateshi was in a bad mood, so she handed out snacks to the colleagues around him for a taste test. Everyone mostly praised them, and when it was Tateshi's turn, his compliment made Yui angry, thinking he was just placating her. She demanded his honest opinion. Tateshi then commented that the chocolate melted too easily and was sticky, and that its large size lacked flavor variation. Yui had a light bulb moment. The other 2 male colleagues remarked it was no wonder their relationship was strained, but Yui was grateful for Tateshi's feedback and thanked him with a smile before rushing back to address the issue. Seeing his girlfriend so proactive, Tateshi also recovered from his slump, straightened his tie, and returned to work. Today, Shizuno pulled out 2 vouchers and invited Tateshi and others for drinks. Unexpectedly, they ran into Yui and her colleagues, who were having a celebration party. The 2 groups ended up sitting together. Yui remained quiet, just drinking continuously, while her 2 colleagues focused their attention on Tateshi and even called Somei to join them. Somei, who prefers solitude, was reluctantly pulled over, but chose to drink juice instead. He stepped aside to take a phone call, and a female colleague explained to Tateshi that Somei was a recent transfer and had always been somewhat of an outsider. Yui, knowing how hard it is to be new, often spoke to him, which gradually made Somei more willing to participate in social activities like drinking sessions. Tateshi suddenly felt a sense of crisis when he heard Yui's colleagues praising her. He felt proud since she was the star of the celebration, but after several beers, Yui staggered to the side looking unwell. Tateshi quickly followed her and found her squatting alone, looking miserable. He comforted her and massaged her back. Yui took this moment alone to vent to Tateshi about the unexpected overlap with their celebration. Shizuno, the team leader, had been urging her to cherish the connections with her batchmates, constantly talking about Tateshi. As they spoke, Yui began to act coquettishly with Tateshi. Just then, Somei unexpectedly opened the door, exposing their secret relationship and overhearing their conversation. Tateshi was stunned, unable to think. Somei awkwardly asked if they were hiding their relationship from everyone. With no other choice, Tateshi admitted it. The next day, Tateshi and Yui, wearing masks, met in a restaurant to discuss keeping their relationship a secret. Yui joked about silencing anyone who knew, which scared Tateshi. He reassured her that Somei didn't seem the type to gossip, but they worried about accidental slips. Yui didn't want Tateshi's reputation among colleagues to suffer because of her, unaware that Tateshi felt the same way. He comforted her by saying they hadn't done anything wrong and should just act normally. At work, everything seemed normal, and Tateshi's report was even approved by the manager. During a break, Tateshi cornered Somei and bluntly asked him not to share what happened the previous day. Somei realized he had stumbled upon a secret significant enough to warrant a special request for silence. He didn't understand why Tateshi and Yui felt the need to hide their relationship since the company didn't prohibit dating. He pointed out that gossipers would gossip regardless. Tateshi had once thought the same, but Yui had made him see that they were colleagues before they were lovers. Both valued their professional images and didn't want to mix work with their personal lives, although the secret was out now. Tateshi apologized for involving Somei in this situation. Somei responded half-jokingly that it was indeed tricky, especially if they ended up not marrying. Then things could become really awkward at work. He wasn't planning to tell anyone anyway, especially since Yui often looked out for him. He was just surprised to see such a capable senior behave so differently in private. Tateshi, spurred by Somei's comments, began to daydream about marrying Yui.